Hey guys, this is Melissa Bachman. Are you ready to stop spooking deer before it's even time to hunt them? Then you need the new Flex S Dark cellular trail camera from SpyPoint. With a no-glow flash option, long-lasting solar power, and a ton of settings that can be changed anytime through the SpyPoint app, there are no more excuses for letting your deer get wise before the season even starts. So check it out for yourself and see why the SpyPoint Flex S Dark is the unstoppable and undetectable scouting tool you need for your next hunt.
Bow hunting all comes down to a moment. And in the moment, you want equipment on your bow that will get the job done. Trophy Ridge products are the tools bow hunters trust. React Technology sights, rests, stabilizers, and quivers to help a bow hunter be successful in the field. And those tools are from Trophy Ridge.
That's not what I did. I hit it in the chin.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah. So I hit it in the chin, and this thing, it dropped down out of the tree, and that freaking thing had stood up and just did the death roar. And then me, I was just like I was 18, so I guess I was 16 or 18, so I was pretty young. And my eyes, they got big. I was like, oh my God, we're about to die right here. And then they just kept saying, shoot it again, shoot it again.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and we got another great story for you today. Today, we actually connect with Andrew Barela. Andrew is a Californian, a conservationist, a hunter, waterfowler, everything above. And he's a great storyteller. So I want to thank Andrew for coming on the podcast. It was pretty quick from when we got introduced to he was here recording with me. He did not disappoint. I have some great stories. I hope you guys enjoy them as much as I enjoyed chatting with Andrew. So beyond that, guys, please make sure you give us a follow, give us a review, like, share the podcast, all that fun stuff. But for now, let's kick things off and let Andrew tell you some of his stories. Thank you. All right, Andrew. Welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast, brother. How are you?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I am doing well, man. I'm doing well. I'm excited to connect with you. I found you on Instagram, and I just actually followed your account because you were doing some cool stuff with like a learning like institute or something. You'll have to give me a little bit more information in regards to that. But you immediately followed me back, and we started chatting, and here we are, man. I'm excited to hear your stories.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was 360 Sportsman. So it's kind of like an online masterclass of like different hunting techniques, fishing, and like motorsports. And I'll be doing it's called the Waterfowl Hunting Pacific Flyway Masterclass. And I think I start filming in like 2 weeks for that. So that'll be pretty awesome. So I'm pretty sure that's how we met. I think it was like last week or 3 weeks ago. Something
like that. Yeah. I need to pick your brain. So I've only been like goose hunting once and duck hunting twice, and it's basically self-taught. I have killed one duck, and I'm pretty proud of it. Actually, I killed 2 ducks. I only retrieved one of them because the water got too deep too quick for me. But, you learn those lessons. But let's do this. Andrew, why don't you introduce yourself real quick, and then we can jump into some stories, man, and kick this thing off.
Yeah, so my name is Andrew Barela. I live here in the Central Valley of California in Merced. So if you kind of looked at a map of California and poked right in the middle, that's where I live. I have a fiance, and we have 3 little boys. I think it's 3 years old, 7, and 8 years old.
Perfect.
I work for California Fish and Wildlife as a wildlife technician. My job is within the nutria eradication program. And so basically a nutria is just like an invasive rodent, kind of mixed between a beaver and a rat, or a beaver body with like a rat tail. And
interesting.
My job is just to go around and eradicate them from all the duck clubs out in the marsh in the Sassoon Bay. And
I've never even heard of that animal before.
Yeah,
I'm assuming it's non-native. I'm in Colorado.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think they're up there. But yeah, it's non-native. They're from South America, and they were brought here in like 1800, kind of the fur trading situation. And then when that took a plummet, all the farmers kind of released them out here in California, and now they're everywhere.
Oh, interesting. I had no idea. Are they good eating or just fur? Because I know people eat beavers. I don't think people eat rats too much.
Yeah. So I personally have eaten like 5 nutria. I don't mind them because I just chop it up and make tacos out of them. But there are some people in the crew that are like, no, I'm not eating that, which I understand that for sure. Basically like a water possum, so I don't blame them. But
that's interesting. Do they just destroy the habitat, or like what is the main concern with having them around? Just
So basically, yeah, the habitat. A lot of it has to do with like waterfowl wetlands, like the marsh. They'll eat all the tules, the cattail, the phragmites, which it's okay if they eat the frag because there's too much of that stuff. But yeah, basically just destroying the habitat, making it hard for the waterfowl brooding. So that's kind of the big reason we're taking them out of here.
Okay. Are you guys making a dent, or does it feel sometimes a little hopeless? I'm always curious about these kind of things.
Back and forth. So it'll seem like we wiped out like all of them in this area, and then we'll go back a couple months later and check the cameras, and there's like families all over the place. So it's tough, because, especially during waterfowl season. It's tough because obviously the duck clubs don't want us out there on their properties during duck season. And so when we move out, those populations just blow up. And then by the time we come back in February, they're everywhere. So
that's crazy.
Starting.
What does the process look like? Like, are you going out there with like thermal scopes at night and just popping them, or are you putting out traps, or like what is the process to clear an area?
Yeah. So first we get permission to get out there on the property, and then we'll kind of do like an assessment. So we'll get out on like kayaks, or we'll just walk in waders, and we'll just kind of check to see if there's any like beds, which are basically just push down tules into a bed, or we'll look for scat or chew. And if we find stuff, then we'll set out cameras. And if we have a detection on the camera, that's when we come in with like the traps, like basically like the live traps.
Okay.
And we'll try to trap them, and then we just kind of pop them right there and then take them out of there.
Gotcha. Okay. That's crazy, man. That's funny. I didn't even know that the species like existed, and let alone it was like a huge problem in California. So that's cool. Thanks for the information.
Yeah, if you watch like Duck Dynasty or Duck Commander, they'll show them on there sometimes. They kind of just look like huge muskrats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And normally I don't do this, but like if people wanted to learn more, like myself or other listeners, like what would you say is a good resource to like learn more about these critters and what they're doing and how people can participate in maybe getting rid of them?
Yeah, for sure. YouTube has a lot of not so much documentaries, but like videos that kind of explain what the nutria are, explain the type of habitat. If you want like the best results, I would definitely go out at night because they are nocturnal. But we have seen several of them during the day. I know in California, I think they just started letting like civilians go out there and trap them and kill them themselves, as long as it's on their personal property. But I know in other states like Louisiana, it's just a free-for-all. And I think in Louisiana, you get paid per nutria.
Oh, interesting. Okay, a little bounty. All right. That's what I'm talking about. Cool, man. All right. Well, I took us off track there because I was like, what is he talking about?
You're fine.
This is very interesting. Well, cool. Anything else you want to mention since I derailed your introduction before we jump into some stories?
Good, so I am a chapter chairman for the Blacktail Deer Foundation. We have the Hollister chapter, which is the first chapter in California. The Blacktail Deer Foundation is fairly new within the last 2 years. It's kind of like a branch off the Mule Deer Foundation. And so far we've got, I think, Alaska, Oregon, Washington, and California. And I think we're trying to get another one for like Arizona, for the coot deer. But it's a fairly new foundation. And we just got our first chapter in California, so that's pretty exciting. We'll have our first banquet next year. I think Alaska just kicked off their first banquet, I think last year. And so, it's a slow process, but we're building that. And on top of that, I just became a member of the board of directors for the American Bear Foundation. And that one's still fairly new. I think it's 5 years old or so. Starting to pick up some traction now in, I think, 8 different states. And we got our California chapter as well. So like the black-tailed deer, it's a slow building thing. We're not quite where the Mule Deer Foundation is or Ducks Unlimited, those bigger ones. But it's nice to be on the ground zero of these foundations and just kind of help build it. That's
cool, man. Here's a question I have for you. Like most hunters are, they may have their, yearly membership to those different organizations. But what is it that like had you going, not only am I going to join these, but I'm going to like start several new ones? Like what is it for you that was like got you so fired up? Because I think a lot of people would like to do more, but they don't really know what to do beyond just get the quarterly magazine from whatever foundation they pay their $100 to.
Yeah, so I think for me it was more of like I don't want to just pay my $35 per foundation, right? Because for me, it's like, it doesn't feel like I'm actually doing something, because you get a decal, you get a hat, and you get a magazine.
Yeah.
Like, okay, are you really helping besides that $35? Or is there a different way where I can actually be in the field, hands-on doing it myself, or with our foundation? And so that's kind of like how I felt, is like, I wanted to actually be out there, be one of the ones doing it and see the difference that's going on. Because you go to like a Ducks Unlimited foundation, right? And I'm not just picking them out, there's several of them. But you go there, you have your little banquet dinner, and then you go home, but you don't really see what's changing out there. Where's your money going to?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what influenced me, is like, I don't want to just be like, here's my money, enjoy it. I want to actually be like, I want to use this money myself and go out there and make a difference for these animals.
Got it. That's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah, I have not done much beyond just like subscribing to these things. I have gone out in Colorado and done some fence pulls, which I heard that for every like mile of fence, like 3 animals per year will die annually for like these fences out there. And I believe it, because as we were pulling fences, you just like every 100 yards, you're seeing a corpse of some kind, mule deer, or elk leg, or coyote, or whatever. So I'm like, that made me feel pretty good. It made me want to do more, because I was actually seeing the rewards. We pulled as a group like 10 miles of just random fences. We split into 3 different groups and pulled them from all over near Gunnison, Colorado. And it was super cool. And I've just been curious what other people are doing. You're obviously doing a ton of cool stuff, and I think everyone should get involved with something. And more than just, like you said, the $35, get the quarterly magazine, but like get out there, boots on the ground, and experience, some kind of conservation, because it gives you the warm fuzzies, but it's also good for, everything that hunters and anglers care about. So it's cool. It's cool that you're doing so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
But we've gotten off topic. We don't talk about that stuff typically here. We just do hunting stories. So what do you got for us, Andrew? Why don't you set the stage on the first story you want to tell? What stands out?
Yeah, so I guess we'll start off with today. Today was dove opener. And
cool.
So, yeah, my buddy has some property down the road from me. And I was supposed to get there. Well, shooting time started at 6:02 here. And I set my alarm for 4 o'clock just to kind of get up, get ready, get the jitters out. And then my fiance's work alarm went off at 6 o'clock, and I realized, oh crap, it's dove opener, and I totally forgot about it. So I sat in bed till about 6:15. I was like, do I even go out at this point? Because like the main part of the flight's going to be over. And I was like, screw it, it's going to be too hot this afternoon to go out. So I got out there about 7 o'clock, and hell, by 9 o'clock I already had my 15 doves, and I had a couple pigeons. So I was like, it worked out for me. I got to sleep in and got my limit. So
right, he was going to hunt with you, and did he give you shit for showing up so late, or were you just going out to his land?
I was going out to his property. He was going to meet me out there because it's like, I don't know, 100 yards from his house. But he texted me at like 5:15. He's like, "Is that you who pulled out into the field?" Because he has some neighbors that hunted out there as well. And then, like I said, when I woke up, I texted him. I was like, "Bro, I just woke up. I don't know who's out there." But no, I got out there, and he's like, "Man, you already missed the flight." And I was like, "That's all right." Like, I assumed I'd get like 5 birds or whatever. And then coming out with 15, that was pretty unexpected for sure. But I missed a few easy shots that were probably like 10 yards in front of me. And it's like, how the hell did I miss that? But being the first hunt of the year, you kind of expect it. It gets in your head a little bit. And by the end of the day, I felt like I was missing everything. But it was still a fun day.
That's funny. Yeah, I got a dove story for you. I've told this on the podcast maybe once before, but I lived in Texas for a few years, and my brother-in-law, he's a homebody. He doesn't want to get out for anything, but he will go dove hunting. We didn't get out there for opening day, and there's random plots of like public land that like farmers basically lease out to Texas Park and Wildlife. You can go out and you can, try your best. And so I went out there like once by myself and didn't see anything. Went out again, and I think I got some shots off, but didn't hit anything. But this time I go out with my brother-in-law, and we're out there, and it's him to my left, maybe like 30, 45 yards. In between us and behind us is his son, who I'm going to say is probably 12 at the time, and then myself over to the right. And we're sitting there on our little buckets waiting for some doves to come through, and a dove comes through, and my brother-in-law shoots at it, misses, and it flies right in front of me, and I shoot at it and misses. It loops back around, and I shoot at it, and I miss. And it goes back to him, and he shoots, and he misses. And my little nephew goes, "God, you guys suck." And like that's it. That's the story. But just being like, yeah. Hey hunters, have you ever had one of those stories, the ones that you didn't want to tell, the ones that end in failure? Yeah, I've been there. Actually, you know what? The culprit for me usually is bad optics, or worse, lack of using my optics at all. Picture this. I spot a trophy buck, or an antelope, or an elk, whatever it may be. My heart is racing, but the blurry view, or I just can't quite identify exactly what I'm looking at, it has me second guessing. Well, that's where Vortex Optics comes in. With crystal clear glass and rugged durability, Vortex gives you the confidence to take the shot. Don't let poor optics ruin your story. Make every moment count. Upgrade to Vortex and turn your hunting tales into triumphs. Visit vortexoptics.com today. Running an outdoor business is a grind. One day you're glassing ridgelines or running dogs, the next you're tuning gear or working to keep the land wild. And somewhere in between, you're expected to fill calendars, move product, and keep your name alive. That's where the Ignite Marketing Group comes in. They work with outfitters, gear brands, and conservation groups to tell your story the way it deserves to be told, and to put it in front of the people who live for this lifestyle. Imagine a website that doesn't just sit there but actually books hunts. Imagine campaigns that don't feel like ads, but like a buddy passing along a tip. Imagine your story reaching more hunters, anglers, and outdoor enthusiasts who get it and who want it. That's what Ignite does. No gimmicks, no flash, just real growth for people who belong in the outdoors. Don't just market, ignite it. Learn more at ignitemarketinggp.com/outdoors. Yeah, we do suck. Like, that's all there is to it. But I've like I said, I was not grown up with any of these things. I'm just trying to learn it all. So like, I had never shot at something flying before that hunt, really, or before those dove hunts. So I eventually figured it out. I think I ended up killing 3 birds, which you only see 4. I felt pretty good about that.
That's good.
But yeah, man, it was a funny story that like stands in my memory, and my nephew still tells me and his father, and he's like, "Man, you guys suck."
Okay. No, I've got stories like that. It's pretty much just like you, where it's like everyone down the line keeps missing the same bird. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, dove's always fun, especially if you're like into waterfowl hunting, because that's like your preseason, right, for waterfowl. And I feel like I usually suck at dove hunting, but the last 2 seasons is like I've never shot a limit, because once they switched the limit to 15, I was like, I'm never shooting 15 doves ever. Like, that's impossible for me. And then last year I finally got it done, and then it was like, now that's the expectation. So if I shoot anything less, it's like, oh damn, I'm gonna suck all duck season now. But no, it's nice. It's fortunate that he has this property, because I felt bad this morning because my other hunting buddies from work, they're like, oh, I got 4 doves, oh, I got 8, and I was like, man, I feel like an asshole saying, oh, I got my limit. But
slept in, showed up late, and hit my limit.
Exactly. And I know my dad's up north, and he's like, I only have 1 today. I was like, dude, I invited you down here. I don't know what your problem was, but I don't know. I guess the old man has to learn his lesson. Yeah. The best lessons are self-taught, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. Well, what else you got for us, man? That's good. I'm glad you got out, because I've been seeing on socials everybody going out. God, he's actually from California, from Field to Plate. Him and his group, they said by 7:30 in the morning killed 600 doves is what I saw this morning, which is crazy. And he has a pretty big group. He had a great dove story. If anyone wants to go back and hear it, I'll just give you the cliff notes, which is not fair to the story, but I encourage you to go. Jeremiah Daughtry, but he goes out and everyone's shooting, and this bird's coming, and it's coming right at him, and he shoots it, and the bird, he nails it. And it's the last bird, like number 15, assuming that's the the amount that he could shoot. He shoots it, and it comes to him, and he catches it in his hand, straight out of the air. And he's got his other 20 hunting buddies, and he just goes, "That's it for me, boys." And he walks off with his last bird of the day. I was like, man, that is cool.
It's a solid way.
Yeah, they really slayed out there in California.
Yeah. For me, I feel like most of my hunting is definitely water. It used to be ducks, now it's kind of transferred over to like geese, just because there's like way too many duck hunters these days, and especially in California. And now it's like, well, not many people shoot geese, and my dad, he's a big time goose hunter up north, so I was like, I guess I'll get into this. And so much nicer because nobody in my area shoots geese, everyone's chasing ducks, so it's like way easier for me to get out to a goose spot without being like, trying to have to fight, not fight, but like battle somebody in line to get that spot. But
what do you think is the reasoning behind that? Just ducks are cooler in California right now, or what is the reasoning that no one's out there goose hunting?
I think So I think, well, the Pacific Flyway is like the biggest flyway for ducks for the most part. I think you got the Mississippi Flyway is pretty good, but I think Pacific's right up there with them. And so everyone just chases ducks. It's a lot easier to get them. I wouldn't say it's cheaper, but you don't need as much gear to harvest ducks, right? You only need a couple decoys and just find a spot out in the water. Versus geese over here, it's the more decoys you have, the better odds you're going to have of getting them in. So I think that's a lot of it. Just, carrying everything out. Because that's like 60, 70 pounds of gear right there, just in decoys. It's not, the gun, the backpack, the dog, and everything else you got to take. So, yeah, I think it's just a lot easier in California to go after ducks versus geese. But, yeah, it's a lot more challenging, too, because geese typically aren't going to come in just willingly like ducks do. You actually got to, put in the work, have a decent call, a decent spread out there, convince them, other than ducks, they just dive bomb into an open pond.
Okay, got it. Well, let's hear some of those bird stories, man. We don't get very many bird hunting stories on here, except for like occasionally a guy falls in the water and nearly freezes to death or something like that. But I'm excited to hear what you got.
Yeah, so this refuge that I typically hunt, it's like on the border of Los Banos, California, kind of out in we call it the grasslands. You got the rice fields, you got the delta, and this is kind of like the grasslands in the middle of California. But we got a refuge that me, my hunting buddy, and my dad usually go to. And I think this was 2 years ago. We got out there. We had planned to go to the goose pit, but at this refuge, there's 2 goose pits. They're 3-man blinds. And it was me and my hunting buddy. We were going to get a goose pit. We had a nice spread of decoys ready to go, and both goose pits were taken. And then every duck blind besides the worst one on the refuge was taken. So you're like, crap, we don't really have the equipment to go out to this pond, but if that's all that's left, we'll take it. And so we go out there, and mind you, this blind usually shoots 0 to 1 birds every hunt day. And so we go out there. I think we had maybe like 30 snow goose decoys, just kind of winging it, not really expecting much. And for whatever reason that day, it was like the geese just poured into that pond that we were in. And I think we walked out with, I want to say it was like 16 geese and a few ducks, which is like unheard of for this blind. And so we walk in, we get to the check station, fill out our hunter cards. And the next day, not the next day, but the next hunt day, we go out there. And that was the second blind to get taken out of the reservation line. And we're like, oh man, I wonder if they're going to do any good. And then we ended up going to the goose pit right next to that blind. And that blind never fired a shot that whole time.
Oh no!
It was like, oh man. And then the next Wednesday, the same thing. That blind was taken right away, and then no birds were checked in. It was like, man, I feel so bad because we were just happened to be there on the lucky day, and the lucky day that really never comes. It was just one of those days. But for a couple hunts after that, it was like people just expected to go out there and smash them, and it just never happened. So it's just kind of funny to watch that at that refuge, because especially like the goose pits, me and my dad, one time we went out there and shot, I think like 26 geese. And then that following hunt, somebody went out there and shot like 1 or 2 geese. So it's like, it's fun when it happens, but then you kind of feel bad for the next person that goes out there expecting to harvest their dinner for the week or whatever. And, it just never happens for them. So you feel bad, but at the same time, it's like, you can't help but feeling a little pride in yourself. Like, yeah, we were the ones that were able to do it, but I feel bad when that happens.
That's too funny. So, and excuse my ignorance, but I guess, so you guys, when you're done hunting, you have to go back and you have to log all the birds that you shot. And does that go online? And that's why people are like, then, booking that particular
So it doesn't
spot
go online necessarily. Like the refuge average will go online, like the total number of birds versus hunters. But like if you go to the check station itself, they have a paper that kind of draws out like every single blind and what exact birds they shot and the total number of birds. So it's like when people show up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, they see, oh, goose pit, yada, yada, shot 26 birds. I'm definitely going there, right? And then they get there and it's like, oh, it just happened to be a lucky day for them. And, they kind of do all that preparation for nothing. And that makes you feel bad because it's like, you kind of want to tell them, but you also don't want to tell them. That way they don't take the spot you really want to go to. So it's like, I don't know, I guess you got to find out for yourself, man.
Yeah. Okay. I just was curious. I was like, that's a lot of information that you have, but that is, dude, good for you. You have a good day. I'd rather be lucky than good any day. Like,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. I wish I've never had a like I've mentioned to you earlier, I've never had a bird day like that. So I would love to experience that at some point because
Yeah.
I hear they're pretty special. I think that those are the kind of days that make people like, waterfowl hunters versus like some guys like don't have interest in big game, and I think it's because they're looking for those days where they go out there and they kill their 20 birds plus.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's nice when that happens, but it does kind of suck when you go out there and you shoot, only one or two birds, and then you're like, oh man, I suck, or this day sucks. But then you got to realize like you were pretty spoiled with that one hunt, so it's like that's not going to be every single time, and that's just something you got to mentally remember, and don't bring yourself down. Because I've had several hunts where I've got nothing, just walked away empty-handed, and you start thinking to yourself, like, man, am I too old for this now? This is my 26th. I've been doing this for 26 years. Like, am I just losing touch with it or what? And then you go back the next day and you're like, oh, that was an easy limit. Like, I guess I'm fine.
Yeah.
So,
That's funny, man. That's funny. Well, what else do you got?
I guess we'll stay on the goose hunting topic again. My dad, he's a part of a pretty big club up north. They do a lot of rice field hunting. And I remember this one hunt, well, it was a couple hunts, that there was so many snow geese. We got there right before shooting time, and right when shooting time hit, it was like a blanket of geese coming over us for like an hour straight. Like you couldn't see the sky. It was just all geese. And they were probably like 70, 80 yards up. And it was easy enough.
That's crazy. Were they all honking?
Oh yeah, it was insane. It was like something you'd see on YouTube or on TV, right? And they were low enough to where if you shot, you were gonna hit one. You may not hit the one you were aiming at, but you could still get some lucky shots if you wanted to. But we were waiting for blue geese. I don't know if you know what a blue goose is.
No, sir.
So it's basically a snow goose, but it almost looks like a bald eagle, right? It's got like a brown head. It's got brown patches on its wings and its chest. They're pretty awesome looking, but those are pretty rare. Not so much rare, but they're just not that common in California. And so there was enough geese coming over us to where we could be picky. So we were just waiting for the blue geese to come out. And I remember my dad had screamed, "Blue goose!" And everyone started unloading their guns. And I shot the blue goose and it dropped. And if I remember correctly, my dad was like, "I don't think we got the blue goose." And I was like, "I got it." He's like, "What the hell?" Like nobody, once he said blue goose, it was like the geese just kind of like spread and you couldn't really see where the blue goose went. But I got lucky enough to get it. And that was my first blue goose. And I still have it in my deep freezer. I need to get it mounted. But that was kind of a special hunt for me because that was my first one. And they're so hard to get here in California. But since then, I've actually gotten 3 more. So I've been pretty lucky.
Your first blue goose hunt? Is that right?
No, it's just a regular goose hunt, but it's just when the blue goose comes over, it's like, oh, damn, that's the trophy bird out over
Got
here.
it.
So,
okay,
yeah,
so that was your first goose hunt then? Is that what I'm...
Goose hunt. Woo.
Oh, well, you said it was the first one that you got. So you're just saying it was the first blue goose hunt where you happened to harvest one.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. So blue goose, they're snow geese with brown spots. Where's the blue coming in?
I have no idea. I really don't.
Okay.
Because I don't think I've shot one that actually had blue on it. I mean, some of them, like in the South, might, like Oklahoma and Texas, those kind of areas, they have like more profound colors. So that might be where the blue comes from. But at least the ones I've shot, they're kind of like, they don't really have their full color yet because there is that part of the migration to where they haven't, gotten all their colors yet. But yeah, so that was a fun hunt. And then that next year, which was I think 2 years ago, this is where like something you'd see on like Meat Eater with Steve Ranella, getting all those special hunts. I remember it was the late goose season. So this is like I think it's the first or second weekend of February out here. And we set up in this random dirt field with like weeds in it. It wasn't even like a food plot type of field. It just kind of had like random weeds. And we set up a big spread of snow geese out there. And about, 2 hours into the hunt, it was the coolest thing I've ever witnessed as a waterfowl hunter. There was like thousands of snow geese doing like a tornado above you.
Oh, that's awesome.
It literally looked like a tornado, just like the funnel cloud coming down at you. And I remember I had the gun ready and I didn't want to look up, but like I was shaking so bad. And I was telling myself, I was like, I don't even know which one to shoot at because there's so many of them. Like, do you just like randomly start pulling the trigger and flock shoot them? Or do you try to pick one out? And I was like, man, I'm going to have way too much anxiety and I'm going to miss every shot somehow.
Yeah.
But that was, I mean, I don't know if, well, you said you probably haven't experienced it. You're fairly new to bird hunting.
Yeah. I've heard about them, and they sound like just the most epic thing you can imagine.
Right.
Your story's awesome, but it actually made me a little bit sad because you said you've been doing this 26 years, and that was the first time you'd seen a goose tornado?
Yeah, that was because I don't hunt up north in the rice that much, so that typically doesn't happen in the grasslands. You kind of just get groups of like 20 to 30. But
gotcha, okay.
That's like their main flyway up there. So, it's way easier to get like those groups of 1,000 to come in. But, it was something that I would imagine my heaven would look like. That's how awesome this was. But we were able, I think we dropped 6 out of that group, which definitely isn't a lot compared to the amount of geese there. But it was one of those things, it was cooler to experience than to actually shoot into that flock.
I bet, man. I bet. Yep. I live just north of Denver. Denver has a ton of geese. Like, there are just geese all winter long. In fact, I remember a few years ago reading a news article that was like, there are so many homeless and so many goose in Denver that their plan was, because the goose poop was starting to contaminate some of the things around town, they started harvesting the geese and then feeding them to the homeless. And I was like, that's great. Like, that makes a lot of sense. That's a good way to solve a couple problems there. Yeah. But just kind of emphasize the amount of geese that there are in my area. I've been, whether it's rucking around a lake, taking my kids on a snow hike or whatever it is, some geese will come into some just whatever ponds, nothing special about them. But I see that start to happen, and I'm like, oh man, if I was hunting, that would all I could think about is experiencing a full blown one. But I've seen it kind of start, but never fully take off. But it's something that's on my bucket list at some point in my life that I really want to experience is a snow goose tornado. I've even had a gentleman on the podcast pretty early on, and he said he experienced a duck tornado, which I heard is just like doesn't ever happen. So I was pretty surprised to hear that it happened from him. It actually happened somewhere in Texas for him. But it's a super cool phenomenon that I'd love to experience. All right, we can just keep going, man. So what other stories you got?
Yeah, so I guess we'll transition to deer. I'll go more of the embarrassing stories now. I don't like bragging about myself all the time. It's always awkward. But embarrassing stories. So one time I was deer hunting. I was probably like 18 years old at this point. And there was me and my dad were doing kind of like road hunting. We're just driving around trying to look for deer out in the mountains. And we saw this buck up on the hill, and my dad was trying to get me my first buck. So we hopped out, and I took a knee, and I aimed up at this buck, and I had him right in the crosshairs. And when I fired, a bunch of dust flew up, and it turns out my barrel was pointed right at a berm, and my scope was pointed at the buck. That sucked so bad because I had that buck right in my crosshairs. It was a perfect shot, and then I just exploded this mountain of dirt.
What was the distance on that, where there was that much variability between the barrel and the scope? That's super interesting.
It was maybe less than 5 feet. It's just the adrenaline. Yeah, I was so pumped up. I had buck fever, and I didn't even pay attention to what was in front of my barrel. So
what'd your dad say?
Well, at first he was confused. He's like, well, did you hit it? I was like, I don't know. And then I see this big old cloud of smoke or dirt in front of me. I was like, I don't think I shot the deer. I don't think I hit it. But no, that was embarrassing. But God, I've had so much buck fever in my life. I went on this other junior hunt at it's called Camp Roberts. I think it's a National Guard base here in California. Okay. And I went, and we were doing the same thing, kind of road hunting. A lot of the hunting in California is road hunting. But we were driving around, and then this huge buck just popped up. Well, it didn't pop up, but it was laying underneath this tree, bedded. And my dad's like, crap, there's a buck right there. Shoot it. So I jumped up. I got off the road, and I had a perfect shot, like right to the heart, the way it was laying. And I went to go shoot it, and it stood up, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be like the coolest buck I ever shoot in my life. This thing was huge, and I go to pull the trigger, and I hear click. I'm like, what the hell? So I ejected that round out. I put another one in. I aimed. Click. I'm like, what the hell is going on? My dad's like, turn the safety off. Turn the safety off. I was like, oh crap! And by the time I put it on fire, that buck was gone. I was like, you gotta be kidding me, man. And this is, yeah, I think this is like the second or third buck I have missed up to this point. You know, I was so young. It's like all that adrenaline starts going, and I was so bad at that when I was younger. And actually that same day, it was about an hour later. We had gone on top of this hill, and we were kind of glassing the other ridge, and there was a pretty decent sized buck. I think it was a 3x2, which is pretty decent for like the Bay Area bucks, because we got the blacktail. They're a little smaller, but I think it was a 120-yard shot or something like that, and I aimed, and when I shot, I hit like right above it. And it didn't move, so I was like, okay, we should be fine. So, and then I went to go aim again, and it started slowly walking down the hill, and then it stopped again. And I remember I wrote on my bullet my grandfather's initials, because he had just passed away like a few months before that hunt, and he was really big into deer hunting. And right before I pulled the trigger, I just thought of him, and I did like a quick prayer. I called him Bappa. I was like, please, Bappa, just help this bullet guide right into that deer. And when I pulled the trigger, that deer just dropped. And I wasn't even excited for the kill. I was just more excited for like, oh my gosh, like, did he hear me? Did he help, drop that deer? And that was a pretty special moment. And that's one of those hunts that I'll never forget. You know, every time a hunting buddy passes away, I try to write their initials on the ammo that I'm going to use for that first hunt. And 2 years ago, it was 2 years? Yeah, it was 2 years ago. I wrote my hunting buddy Clint. He had passed away, I think like 3 weeks before opening day of duck season. And so I wrote his initials on the box of shells that I took out with me. And that was such a fast limit of ducks that I got. And I got an extra goose on that hunt as well. So I got 8 birds pretty quick on that hunt. And it was like, wow, like these moments were like my hunting buddies. I just feel like they're with me out there in the field. And those are always like super special hunts.
That's cool, man. You know what's funny is today I had an episode released, and there was another hunter telling a bunch of stories just like that, where he had moments, and it's a common theme. And I think I say this in the episode that's out today, which is Labor Day, which is like when hunters have people pass, it seems like a very common occurrence to have that moment in the woods where they can say almost without a doubt that person was there with them, like because of whatever circumstance. And it's something that, like, I don't really have any other hunters. I hope that none of the people that I currently hunt with pass anytime soon, but you never know. But, like, I didn't have generations before me, so, like, I've never experienced that. But it seems to be a super common thing that, like, happens a lot with hunters. So it's super cool that you've been able – I mean, of course, I'm sorry for your loss, right? But it is still a super cool experience and a really cool memory that I think that you have and a lot of other fellow hunters have also experienced, man. It's cool. Maybe someone needs to research it because it comes up all the time.
Yep, it does. Yeah. And especially like that deer that I had harvested. It's like I had missed like 3 deer right before that. And then just for me to say that prayer and just be with me, and then all of a sudden that's the one that drops the deer. It's just like you can't make that stuff up. Like, it's such an awesome experience. But,
I also love the name Bappa. Like what is that just a nickname or is there anything to it? Because I'm always looking for new things for my kids to call my parents, and Bappa is a great one.
So like you always hear Papa, like people call their grandparents Papa. Well, I guess when I was younger, my mom said I couldn't pronounce the first P, but I turned it into a B, and then it just kind of stuck. I just said Bappa.
Yeah, that's funny. My son couldn't say Brian, which is his uncle, and so he's called him Uncle Brownie, and so now he's just Box of Brownies, like that's his name. Like that's he's gonna keep calling him that because he couldn't pronounce so he's Uncle Brownie. So
join us at a Friends of NRA event where freedom, fun, and firearms come together like nowhere else. With more than 600 events held across the country, there's always one happening near you. From exciting games to exclusive auctions featuring one-of-a-kind firearms and gear you won't find anywhere else. Whether you're a lifelong hunter, a competitive shooter, or simply passionate about defending freedom, there is a seat for you. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you and get ready for a night you won't forget.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, man. Give me some more big game stories. These are fun. Do you have any good black bear stories? I'm about to go into the elk woods, and the place that I went and scouted, there's just black bear scat everywhere. So I'm trying to get fired up for black bear.
Yeah, so I've harvested one black bear. That was, I think this will be like 16, 15 years ago this year.
Okay.
This was back when we were allowed to use hounds here in California. Now it's outlawed, but this one old guy, he's a good friend of my dad's, but he was like our guide because all he did was run hounds out in the forest. And so he got us on this bear, and it was probably a 2-mile hike up and down the canyon and then all across to the other side of the canyon. And we got out there. I think I was like 18 years old at this time, so it was a little easier for me versus my dad and this guy, because the other guy, I think he was 70, 75 at the time.
Okay.
And so he's an old guy, but he was like a mountain goat. That dude would walk anywhere with no issues. And we walked all the way back to where the dogs had this black bear treed. And, they were just kind of running through like how to aim at the bear when it's up there. It was a pretty easy headshot. So they kind of said, just aim for the head on this one. That way when it drops, it's dead. You don't got to worry about it getting up and chasing you. That's not what I did. I hit it in the chin.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah. So I hit it in the chin, and this thing, it dropped down out of the tree, and that freaking thing, it stood up and just did the death roar. And then I was just like I was 18, so I guess I was 16 or 18, so I was pretty young. And my eyes, they got big. I was like, oh my God, we're about to die right here. And then they just kept saying, shoot it again. So I think I put a round into the chest, and then I think my dad or the other guy used their handgun to kind of like help finish it off for me. But that was, you don't really know what to do in that situation, especially as a new bear hunter. You see that thing stand up as a human and just start screaming at you, and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? Do I just accept my fate right now? But no, that was a good experience. And then
what caliber were you using? Like, you hit it in the jaw. Did the jaw just like come off, or like what happened?
No, I mean, it left a hole through the jaw. I think it went through the jaw and then out the cheek or the bottom of the skull. So like it was hurt. I think it was the bottom of the skull. So it was hurt, but it wasn't like it was going to die right now. You had to finish it for sure.
Probably wouldn't have been able to eat and died slowly or something along those lines. So, all right.
Exactly.
Yeah, you always see pictures of like deer in the woods where their jaws have been, shot off, and so that's what I was picturing, was just the jaw hanging loose on this nasty bear. But glad to hear it wasn't quite that graphic, but glad you also were able to put it down pretty quick.
Yeah, and so I kind of took a break from big game, and for me it was like waterfowl, because I don't know, I've been told by 3 psychologists or whatever you call them that I have ADHD, so big game hunting wasn't really doing it for me. And so yeah, I focused more on waterfowl for a bunch of years after that, just because it was more active and you can kind of get your energy out that way. But as I got older, I started going back into the big game, specifically bear. That's kind of been my big thing the last couple of years, is bear. I had one shot or a chance at a bear last year. I think it wasn't opening weekend. I think it was the second weekend of bear season. I went out to this specific area that I like, and I was driving the roads. I was actually leaving at that point, so I was driving back on this dirt road going back down the mountain. And I came around a corner, and this bear was just sitting in the middle of the road like a human, facing the other way. So I was like, oh, crap. And then I grabbed my rifle, I get out, and I start creeping up to it. And I pull up to aim, and I was like, this thing looks kind of small. Like, I feel like I could wait for a bigger one, and it's still early in the season. And then it turned around and looked at me, and then it took off down the hill like super fast. And once it got up, I was like, oh, damn, that's a big bear. Like, I should have shot that. But it's so hard when they're sitting down, because they look so small when they're sitting down until they get up. And yeah, that was a blown opportunity. But I haven't seen one since then. I've been probably 6 times since then, and haven't seen a lot of scat. But our season opens on the 20th, I think, this month. So we have a couple areas that we want to try for bear and deer that weekend. We saw, actually, what was it, 2 weeks ago, we went up there for bow season for deer. And I saw one buck. It was a 3x3 or 3x2, still in velvet, and it was probably 45, 50 yards from me, and I'd gotten comfortable up to like 35, 40 yards with the bow, and it was out of reach for my comfort zone, but I was like, you know what, I'm here, I'm pretty sure I can hit this thing. So I pulled back and let it loose, and then it flew right over it, and then it took off across the over the road. But it was like, damn it, like I feel like I shouldn't have shot, because it was one of those things like I wasn't comfortable. But it was like, it's hard to stop yourself when you're in that moment of like, it's right there. I feel like I could hit it. And it didn't work out for me this time. But what
was the distance, and why do you think you arrowed high?
So I think it was I tried to range it on the tree that I hit, and it was standing right in front of the tree, and it was like about 45 yards.
Okay.
And I think when I hit it, because I had practiced on that 40 and 50 yard one, just here at home in the backyard, and I noticed I was a little high, and I tried to adjust it, but it seemed like I didn't quite get it right, which is why I didn't want to shoot anything over like 35. Yeah. And I think when I was in that moment, I didn't adjust my aiming to that 45 yard range, and then I just kind of went right for where I wanted it to hit. And when it ducked, it kind of went over it. But yeah, I shouldn't have shot it. I should have just waited for something I was comfortable with. But at least now I know I need more practice on those types of shots.
We've all done it, man. We've all done it. I remember my one of my first elk hunts, archery elk hunts, the first one that I actually flung an arrow. There was a herd. I was sitting there like 40 yards from a bull, and he was laying down in front or behind a log. So all I could see was his head. And I'm just waiting for him. All of a sudden, he stands up, looks left. All of them stand up, look left. And I knew my buddy was over there, and like, oh no, they winded him. And they all just ran to the right. And I was like, I didn't have a slider pin. I just had like a 20, 30, 40, 50 pin. And so I was like, I don't know. They're probably like 60 yards. So I pulled back, and I'm ashamed of it, but I basically herd shot. Just was like, there's a bunch of brown over there, I'll fling it that way. And I just put my bottom pin at like the top of their backs, being like they're farther than that. Fortunately, they were probably like 120 yards, and my arrow landed like halfway in between, and there was no concern of anything getting hit at all. But as soon as I shot, I was like, what did I do that for? I didn't like range them. I just got hung up in the moment because I had snuck in so well into this perfect scenario. I was just waiting for them to stand up, and they all just left so fast. And I was like, no, I can't let the opportunity go away. So we've all been there. We've all taken shots. You hope that when you have that moment, you don't hurt an animal. And in our cases, we didn't. But yeah, everybody's done it, I think. Well, what else you got, Andrew?
Yeah, so we'll swing it back to waterfowl hunting. I remember, you're fairly new to bird hunting. You know how waterfowl have the band on their legs?
I've heard of them. I've never actually experienced them in my. And I also heard that they were maybe like Trump's trying to cut the band program.
I saw that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so we'll see what's all going on with that. But yes, I'm familiar, so continue.
Yeah, so I've been lucky enough to harvest 3 of them, which is decent in California, but there's definitely people with way more. But I remember my first one, and I felt bad because my hunting buddy, him and I, neither of us had gotten a band at that point, and we were hunting a pretty good blind at this refuge, and one of the last birds to come in was a banded mallard. It was a pair of Drake mallards that came in, and we didn't see the band, but I had aimed and shot the one that had a band, and that one fell, and he shot the other green head, and that one fell. And then he goes out to the pond, and I could see the one I shot had the chest was all bloody, and then the other one was looking nice. And then he goes, "Hey, which one did you shoot?" And then I was like, well, I don't really want the bloody one. So I was like, oh, it was that one to the left because it was all clean and the meat wasn't messed up on that one. So I was like, oh, I shot the one to the left. He's like, all right, because this one has a band on it. I was like, no, that's the one that I shot. And so I felt
Karma's a bitch.
I know. So when he got back to the blind, he's like, hey man, I shot a band. I was like, man, I actually shot that one. I didn't. It was one of those things. I was like, I felt so bad telling him. I was like, dude, I really just didn't want that one because his chest was all shot up and stuff. But no, he was cool enough. He's like, all right, you can take it. I was like, oh man, I feel bad. Like, but luckily he did end up. I think he got one band a couple of years ago. So now we're kind of caught up with each other, and I don't feel so bad for taking that one. But yeah, those bands are so hard to get here in California. And my dad, I don't know how this guy does it all the time with these bands, but he shot 3 banded snow geese back to back to back. Well, 3 days in a row. And it's just like, how the hell do you do this stuff, man? Like, he gets bands every year, and then one of them was like from Russia, and it was like 10 years old or something.
No way. That's super cool. That was going to be my next question. Is for your band, you call them in, and they tell you kind of like how long ago and when they were banded. So what were the stats on yours?
Yeah, so mine, I have 3 bands now, but all of them were banded, I think, within 2 years of being harvested, and they were all banded like up there where my dad hunts, like up in the Sacramento area. So I don't really have any special bands, but that guy gets them from like Russia and Canada, all kinds of different areas.
Interesting. I didn't know that Russia did that. So it's not just a U.S. thing to band birds? No?
Yeah, I think Russia's got a pretty good program over there. I don't know if any other countries have them, but for the most part, I think it's Canada, America, and then Russia. And like I said, there might be some other countries that I haven't heard of.
Gotcha. You may or may not have an answer to this, but is there like, like people try and get their rare Pokemon cards or whatever kind of bullshit, right? So like, is there like rare bands that like people hear about and they're like the coolest ones to get because they're so rare? Obviously, I think a Russian one would qualify, but are there any other bands that you're like aware of that you've heard and you're like, that's pretty unique and interesting? Or is it just kind of cool geographic data?
Well, I guess I think some bands, because some of them are different colors, and I think some of those colors, they actually have like a payout. So if you get, I think it's like a red and a blue band, you actually get paid a certain amount. But I would say the big ones that people are after are they're called backpacks. So like ducks and geese, they'll strap like a little backpack to them, which is basically like a transmitter. It kind of like it follows. You can get like data from that bird of where it's going in live action. And so those are pretty popular. And then
when you turn them in for money, do you get to keep them? And you're just like calling it and saying, "Hey, I got this. There's your data. Now pay me." Or do they actually say, "Send it our way"?
So I think the band you can keep, but the backpack, they want you to send it in, and then they'll send you like a replica of it.
Oh, okay.
So basically, they want all the chips inside of there for replacing it or whatever, and then they'll just send you like a regular empty backpack.
Okay.
But,
I wonder if it's like a little Kevlar backpack, so like their data doesn't get shot out of the sky.
I seen one. So my dad's hunting buddy shot one 2 years ago. I don't remember what it looks like, but it's super small. Like it's not really going to affect the bird or anything, but they're pretty awesome. And I think he actually kept his. He's like, no, I'm not giving it back to you guys. Like, it is what it is. I want this. I'm the one that harvested it. But no, those are pretty cool. I've never shot a backpack, nor do I expect to ever shoot one because they're so rare over here.
Gotcha.
But another thing is collars. A lot of geese will have like a collar on them. And I know some of those, based on the color, those get a payout as well. I've never gotten a collar either, but I've seen some of them on snow geese that are in like the closed zone area. You'll see a goose out there with a collar. But I don't expect to ever get one of those either. They're so rare.
Yeah, gotcha. Here's a question I have for you, just because you're kind of, you work for the department for like big game that's collared. I've always thought and heard that you should shoot them because they're just going through their normal life cycle. If they wouldn't have a collar, they would have been shot by you, so that's what it is. But I recently read an article where I think it was, I want to say it was North Carolina, it might have been another state, but they had like bears that were collared, and they're like, don't shoot these ones. They didn't want you to shoot those. So I was like, I'm wondering what is the preference from like the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Should you shoot them? Should you not shoot them? Do you know? And if not, I apologize for this long-winded question, but it's something that I'm curious about.
I think it has more to do with like the region that that animal is in, and they
Okay.
might want like more data from like, okay, like what's the migration pattern with this animal? Where's like the food sources? What are they wanting out of that region? So if there's a collared animal out there, it helps them, especially because like the collared animals, they're usually with like other deer or other bear. So having a location for that animal helps them get a pinpoint of how many animals are in that region. And if there's a region, there's a bunch of bear or a bunch of deer, it's probably not going to matter as much. But if there's a small
Okay.
population, they're going to be like, yeah, we don't want you to shoot this one because that animal is going to help us figure out the population in that area if it's a small population.
Got it. Got it. Cool, man. Well, thank you for answering my questions. I learned a lot of stuff on this episode. Normally, it's not just about storytelling and having fun, but it's nice to learn something occasionally. All right, man. Well, do you have any other stories you want to share, or should we wrap it up right there? Your call.
I'll share one more. Not so much
Okay.
of a good story on my end, more of like, damn, I suck. But there's a lot of those. But
Yeah, we all
so
have
there's
those.
this duck. It's called a blue-winged teal. It's
Okay.
predominantly in like the Central Flyway and the Mississippi Flyway, but there's starting to become more of them in California. And that's always been my big goal, is to shoot a blue-winged teal. And I had two of them as a junior. I think I was probably like 12 to 14 years old. I had two chances in one day to shoot one, and I completely missed both shots. And so that was a bummer for me. And then a few years later, I had another opportunity to shoot one, completely missed. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm
Yeah.
not even aiming at these ducks. I'm just like so excited. I'm just pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
And then last year, I had three chances at them, completely missed all three of them.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I don't know what it is with this bird. If it's just, I don't want to say anxiety, but like I just get so like worked up and like overthinking it so much that I just miss every opportunity. But eventually, I will kill one. It's taken 26 years, but I'm pretty sure I will get one this year, next year, because it seems like there's a lot more of them in the grasslands. And
Yeah.
now I kind of know where they hang out better than I did before. So I'm hoping to get a blue wing this year. But it just
Nice,
seems
man.
like my brain just turns to mush when I try to shoot at one of those.
We all got to have that like one thing that's like, oh, we just never we have an opportunity, we keep blowing it. We've all had that.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I think I've heard it called a great white buffalo. You're a great white buffalo. It's just like that thing that you just never quite get the shot on. It's always
Yeah.
right there, and you can never close the deal. So,
Yeah.
that's your great white buffalo.
Exactly. I wish it could stop being my great white buffalo.
Yep. Well, cool, man. Well, thanks for sharing that. Let's do this. Why don't we wrap it up? Why don't you share, if you want to share socials, or if you want to share, any websites or anything like that, I can also link everything in the show notes. But tell the people where they can find you and, whatever else you want them to look into.
Yeah. So I mainly use Instagram, but my Instagram is the Andrew Barela. Like I said, we follow each other on there. So if people want to go to your page and find you or find me, that's fine. Also, the 360 Sportsman. Like I said at the beginning, I'm filming a waterfowl masterclass. So if there's anybody, including yourself, that wants to learn how to hunt ducks and geese, this is going to be a great opportunity. Right now, they're doing a 40% off on that entire website.
Okay.
So if you're into anything like whitetail deer, archery hunting, bear hunting, grizzly hunting, they got all kinds of stuff on there. And if you want to learn how to hunt a specific species, go to 360 Sportsman. And I think there's almost 100 different master classes on there. And so yeah, you got your picking of what you want to learn. And then mine will be out in the beginning of October. And yeah, so if you want to learn something new, hop on to 360 Sportsman. They got a big deal, 40% off of everything right now.
Cool.
And yeah, if you want to help us with the Bear Foundation or the Black-tailed Deer Foundation, they both have websites, AmericanBearFoundation.org, I believe, and BlacktailDeerFoundation.org or .com. I'll have to double check on those. And like I said, it's a $35 foundation, but when you join those, you also have the opportunity to become a team member, especially with the American Bear Foundation. So you're not just becoming like a paid member, but you actually are part of our team and can go out there and help us with the habitat restoration projects as well. So you're not just paying your membership fee, but you're, paying it forward to the next generation, going out there helping the wildlife with us. So those are pretty good opportunities if you want to be a part of something.
Awesome, Andrew. Thank you. I will put links to everything you just mentioned in the show notes. Just make it real nice and easy for everybody. So just go ahead and check there. And if you have any interest, reach out to Andrew. I'm sure he'd be more than willing to talk to you about all of those different, fun conservation things that you're up to. So thank you, sir. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing your stories. It's always fun to hear something a little bit different. Like I said, it is a lot of big game. It's fun to go kind of to the waterfowl side. So thank you for sharing and, being brave and coming out here and sharing your stories, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you.
Yeah, we'll have you back on again in the future, I'm sure. Thank you.
Sounds good.
All right, guys, that's it. Another couple stories in the books. Again, I want to thank Andrew for coming on the podcast, sharing his stories with you and with me and with everyone that's listening. Please, guys, if you have some great stories, if you know someone that has some great stories, reach out to me. I'd love to have them all on. And, of course, I'm talking about old-timers, right? So it's hard for me to get in touch with the old folks that aren't on Instagram. They aren't on socials. They aren't into podcasts. If you have someone in your life and you'd like to capture their stories, reach out to me. I'd love to help you do that. But beyond that, guys, thank you for tuning in. Please do share the podcast, give us a review, like, subscribe, follow, all of that dumb stuff that supposedly helps us grow. I would still appreciate it, even though I'm not even sure it really works. But other than that, guys, thank you so much. Now get out there and make some stories of your own.